Well, dear friends, it's good to have you joining with us again today. Hope you like the camera angle in the background. Have to confess I'm quite happy with it, although the equipment that I use is not all that sophisticated at all. Just a simple mobile phone attached to a lamppost with an elastic band. But I think it looks not too bad, apart from this old face that you have to look at the same time. But listen, it's lovely to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us, and may God bless you and encourage you. Last time, if you were with us, we were just making mention of this little book, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, a classic of English literature, written away back in 1843. Over the last number of years, I make a point of reading it round about this time of year. I think there's a lot of valuable lessons in it for each and every one of us, and I'm sure some of the films might be on TV at Christmas as well. But it's all about Ebenezer Scrooge, who Charles Dickens describes as being a covetous old sinner. And that strikes a chord, doesn't it? Because we can all be covetous, and certainly the Bible says all have sinned and have come short of the glory of God. And having ill-treated his employee Bob Cratchit, he sends him home for one day's holiday over Christmas. He sends his nephew away, who's only come to bid him a happy Christmas. He cries out humbug, and then he goes home himself to count his money. And as he returns home, he's visited by an old partner of his, Jacob Marley, who challenges Scrooge about the way he's living and the consequences of it for himself and for others. And I wonder today, have we ever been challenged about how we're living, about the consequences of maybe going on, living the lives that we're living? And Marley speaks to Scrooge and says that he's going to be visited by three spirits that night. One's going to take him to the past, the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future. And that very night, that Christmas Eve, way back all of those years ago in the book, Scrooge is visited first of all by the ghost of Christmas past, and he's taken away back to his childhood. He sees himself in school, some of the friends that he had. Bob Wilkins is one of the names. He sees his sister who died relatively young. He thinks about his parents. He thinks about his first job, Mr. Fezziwig, and the good times that he had. He thinks about the girl that he had fallen in love with and was going to get married to. And then how this lust for money and material possessions began to grip his heart. And as Scrooge looks back, he looks back with a sense of shame at times, how he responded to people, decisions that he made, things that happened to him, and how he responded to that, and choices and decisions that he made. And now all of these years and decades later, he's living with the consequences. And sometimes if we could just transport ourselves back a few years, maybe to our childhood days, and we see privileges that we had that maybe we didn't avail ourselves of, friendships that we had that no longer exist, loved ones that were around us that in 2021 no longer are, things that we enjoyed, blessings perhaps that we took for granted, and then decisions that we made that were wrong, choices we made that weren't wise, how we allowed things to creep into our hearts, and they've moulded us and made us perhaps into the people that we are today. You know, the Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes that God requireth that which is past. And we will give an account for our lives. And at last, whenever we stand before the judgment throne of God, everything in this life will be past. And I wonder, is your past cleansed? Is your past forgiven? The Bible speaks in the book of Ephesians about the remission for sins that are past. God can cleanse your past. There are maybe things in your past that you're ashamed of. Maybe things have happened to you in your past that you weren't responsible for, but you were and are responsible for how you dealt with them. And certainly whenever we look back at our past, there are privileges that we had that we maybe didn't avail ourselves of. Friendships and people in our lives that we took for granted and they're no longer with us. And perhaps as well, sins that have never been cleansed and forgiven. The Bible says that God is able to give us a new beginning. So we look back at our past. Are there things there that need to be repented of, Scrooge began to realise there are many things in his past that he's not proud of. And I'm sure we're all exactly the same. If our past lives, our thoughts, our secret sins were written up before the world, we'd want to run 100 miles and hide. And yet God is merciful. And maybe at this time of the year he's been speaking to you about your past, about your need for him. May God bless you, and may you think about these things as you take time at the end of 2021 to reflect upon the past. May the Lord challenge you, and may the Lord draw you afresh to himself. And let's take a little bit of time just to reflect upon the people that we are, and maybe things that we need to confess and make restitution for. God bless you, and we'll see you hopefully again very soon.